every new fiscal year, we appoint a new set of committee members for the chair and the vice chair. So I don't know, do you need to introduce this or? Okay, so do we have any nominations for chair?
I nominate Alex, Chairman.
I second.
Are there any other nominations?
Are you kidding? Hell no. So moved.
Looks like somebody wants to be chair.
No, you are.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks. Are the, I guess I'll have, do we need a roll call vote or we can do a?
Acclamation.
Okay, all in favor can say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none. The role of the vice chair is also vacant. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
Who wants to do it? Julie? Yes. Nope.
Anybody?
Walt, you want to do it?
Oh,
Wimp.
sure, I'll do it.
Okay, I nominate Walt for vice chair. I need a second, though. Okay, well, I think Bob beat you to it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none. Walt, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, 5B pickleball. So,
Yes.
Will, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, I'm going to introduce it. As you can see, Robert is on vacation this week, so I'm going to just go over his staff report. We'll cover whatever we can. Any questions I'm not able to answer, I will write down and refer when he comes back on Monday. He can try to answer them moving forward. The purpose of this was for the committee to review the pickleball program and make recommendations to the city council regarding changes in hours, potential drop-in play, reservations, and structural use of courts, and preferred locations of configuration of potential permanent pickleball facilities. The pickleball program was initiated at the end of January 2024. In September of 2024, based on recommendations from the Park and Recs Committee, the City Council expanded reservable hours of pickleball as follows: mornings until noon, daily; evenings after 4, Tuesdays and Thursdays; all day Sundays, with one court reserved and one court available for drop-in play. As you can see in the staff report, there's a heavy demand in pickleball courts. The reservation hours reached 195 hours in April of 2025 and 255 in May. You're able to look through all of the stats and everything. The main part is talking about the permanent pickleball court. Attached to the report are descriptions of various tennis and pickleball layouts for review. I'm going to share my screen just so everybody can see it, but it is in your packet also of the different options that we've talked about. So one of the options was a permanent conversion of court one, to pickleball, resurfacing, striping, and net installation. The other option was permanent conversion of clay pickleball court 1 to pickleball and conversion of the clay court to hard court tennis. Number 3 was demolition of the handball court and construction of 2 pickleball courts with reconversion of court number 1 to tennis. Note that new fencing and access will be required for reconversion of the pickleball courts and rear tennis courts. Lastly, conversion and expansion of court number 5 to accommodate pickleball with reservations of court number 1 to tennis. Also included is conversion of the clay court to hard court. So inside these things, you can see this is just the normal court number 1 and court number 3, which is the clay court. This is converting it to possible 3 pickleball courts on court number 1 and a hard court to the clay court, number 3. This is putting 4 pickleball courts on court number 1 with the conversion to clay court on court number 3. This is installing the 2 permanent pickleball courts where the handball court was. And this lastly is expanding court number, I believe it's 5, to hold 4 pickleball courts, and court number 1 would be tennis. Approximate construction cost ranges, not including design and construction management, are as follows. So to do court number 1, just resurfacing, striping, and nets is anywhere between $25,000 to $35,000. Court 3, removal of the clay court and
That,
reconstruct.
that's for either 3 or 4 pickleball courts.
Yes,
right?
yes, either 3 or 4 pickleball courts. Court number 3, removal of the clay court and reconstruction of hard court, about 150 to 200,000. Handball court, removal of handball court and replacement of the 2 pickleball courts, 250 to 300,000. Court number 5, removal of handball court, expansion of the court 5 and restriping to accommodate 4 pickleball courts, including resurfacing of court number 1, 200 to 250,000. These are all rough estimates that Robert came up with. So now the committee has the opportunity to review, discuss, and recommend potential changes to the court hours, permit usage, including drop-in play, pickleball courts for reconsideration to the council. The committee should also discuss the instructional uses of pickleball courts, should this be permitted. And that's everything I have.
Okay, thank you, Will. Why don't we do it this way? We'll take any committee questions of staff or of Michael and then we'll open up for public comment after that. So are there any, Will went over several things we're considering. So one is the future directions for permanent pickleball courts. So I would like to hear both public comment, Michael's comments, as well as the committee comments about what the preferences are, looking at the price, different priced options. Also, possibly extending the pickleball current temporary hours because we're seeing a lot of congestion on Saturdays. And then what you think about doing with the clay court and other ways to accommodate more pickleball time and possibly more tennis time. So it's a lot of things to be discussed on this, but are there any questions to start off with?
Suggestion, we look at the long view.
Sure, we can.
Everything less popular.
Oh, make sure yes, you guys got it.
So, Will, you were not there at the time.
Hey, Walt?
I don't think I'll do the same thing. I don't think we ended up with open play on Sunday. Actually, the council looked at that. We had recommended that on one court with a sign-in sheet, and that turned out to be too complicated. And you can see right now that those courts are reserved. Both courts are reserved basically all afternoon on Sunday and all morning as well.
Will, the figures on costs, this would involve construction management, design, and prevailing wage construction company type deal, right?
Yeah, so the numbers that we came up with, as you can see in there, those are not including any kind of design or construction management. Those are just rough estimates for material and labor. So
But
the
that's
price-
going according to prevailing wage and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
The other thing I would suggest, Will, if you could ask Robert, those numbers are very broad. There are pickleball courts being built right and left everywhere now, public and private. For instance, the Circus Club built exactly what we might be looking at, which is 2 individual pickleball courts. And they took actually a practice facility with a wall, kind of like we have, and converted that to 2 pickleball courts. I wonder if we can't get contractors, find out the names. I don't know that we need to ask what they paid over there, but at least there must be a lot of possibilities. Let's get down to some real numbers here. And I'm not quite sure why he would make it different. The clay court would have to be started all over again. The base is not what we'd need or anything else. So I think we need a lot more detail on that. If we could get that, that'd be great. Because I think that drives a lot. When I look at the possibility of 2 individual courts, I see that as a real possibility if A, our donor would actually lead the way, and B, if it turns out to be fiscally available because of that as well. That would change entirely the situation because then we could have pickleball players could use that. They could still convert if they wanted to the court 1 on a limited basis. They'd have the 4 courts they want. And they want, I don't know if Alex mentioned this, but one of the issues is teaching. And they could have their own teaching on those 2 courts. They would control them. Michael could then teach on the other courts. So in a way, it's a win-win is the way I see it. But anyway, I'd like comments on that because that's kind of seemed to be a possible analysis.
So I'm interested in hearing from Michael and also,
I just had a question. What did it cost to build the clay court?
how much
What
does
did
it
it
cost?
cost to build the clay court? Because we had a hard court there and it was torn up and
Oh, is that right?
do we know what it cost?
120,000, is that what you said? Okay.
Only a year or
Yeah,
two.
a lot of years ago.
Talking about converting the clay court to a hard court?
Well, they gave a number for that, didn't they?
Yeah,
It's $200,000, right?
150 to 200.
150. So what did it cost to convert it to a clay court?
Michael had said 120,000.
Convert
120.
what to a clay court?
When it was,
Okay.
when it was hard
Oh,
before,
when it
you're
was
asking.
originally
The
done.
hard court before.
Okay.
To piggyback on with Walter's comment about questioning the price and the figures, Foster City has turned almost all of their tennis courts into pickleball courts. That would be another avenue to see who they used and what the cost was. And I also checked with Neelan Park has done the same thing, but they've saved some of the tennis courts.
But I don't think they've built
No, but.
courts from
but-
scratch.
Right, that's a totally different animal than the restriping of courts and resurfacing.
Yeah, the main price in the construction is redoing the clay court or building our courts. That's where the expense is. When it comes to restriping and all that kind of stuff, it's a lower price. It's still expensive, but it's a different price.
The other thing we've done oodles of times is to have the foundation be responsible for paying for the court. We could have the donation be done through the foundation, and we could avoid the mandate of the prevailing wage, which would lower the cost significantly.
Wait, that would be for what?
If we wanted to build any of these things, we could build, if the donor wanted to give the money to the foundation, and the foundation ends up being the person that builds that, we can avoid the whole mandate of prevailing wage, which is exactly what we did the last time we did it was on the event garden, but we've done it repeatedly over the years, so.
Did the foundation do the clay court, the hard court to clay court?
No, we did not, but
talking about the event
we
garden.
weren't
Yeah.
asked to. So that's my point, so,
Do you have an estimate on what the cost difference?
not at
would
all,
be?
but I'll get it. I mean, I don't know, and this was actually, yesterday was the first time I read this, so I'm looking at these costs, but I will endeavor to get those numbers, so.
I talked to the city manager when we did that event garden, and I think he said we did it for 40%
I was
less.
just going to suggest, the event garden we built for 40% of what the town estimated the cost would be, so.
Can you explain why that's such a huge difference?
Prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage.
Require that they pay X amount to the contractor.
Oh, versus, okay,
The state of California requires the
Yeah.
prevailing.
wow.
So the questions I'll have for Michael
go ahead, please.
and any public comment is, if we do a permanent pickleball court, what is their preferences in terms of the layout and how many permanent courts? And which of the choices? And a more immediate is, what if we entertained extending the pickleball hours on Saturday to be longer than they currently are at 4 hours? Because it looks like Saturday is the most congested, and people seem to want to have more there. The thoughts of losing the clay court, so just looking at what the town and Roberts collected from Michael about how much, and not Michael, and also the other Michael, who collects the keys for Atherton, we're not selling any keys to residents for clay court only, and if we're not making much on clay court hours, I'm not sure it's worth having a mostly empty court when it could be better used as a hard court, especially if residents are asking for more tennis time and they prefer not to play on the clay court, they want a hard court. And then also some ideas about, there's been a lot of questions about adding instructional lessons for pickleball, and maybe if we add extended pickleball hours, there'd be more time for instructional play. And then I know some residents want to have their own instructor, but I'm not sure if that'll work with player capital. So if there's some ideas of how we can make that work so that everyone can be happy, I would prefer that than going through something a little more contentious. So those are kind of the questions I have as we enter this discussion. Are there any other questions that you guys want? If not, then let's open up for public comment. So whoever wants to go first, they're welcome to.
I guess I can go first.
Okay, if you could, at the mic. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with first the extended hours on Saturday. I don't know if there's a demand because we opened up Sunday, and if you look at Sunday afternoon, it's not that used. If you look at the last 6 weeks schedule, it's packed in the morning on Sunday, but it's not always open afternoon. Saturday, I'm not sure. Also, the tennis players have already, that's the prime time for tennis, is the morning hours. And give up more of that time on a weekend. I don't know if that's taking away from the tennis players. Also, Robert, we just got rid of a coach that was coaching pickleball like 4 hours plus a day. So that opens up a lot of time on the pickleball courts. Well, so it'll be interesting to see how much, how much more demand there is. Now that frees up 4 hours of court time.
Can you tell us about when you said got rid of the coach? Can you just explain what?
Well, I don't know. Some of the people just, there was one coach that was just teaching there 3 to 4 hours a day. So we never offered pickleball lessons because that would take away a court from already heavy demand.
Could we do in an interplay, or should we just let Michael finish?
No, we can ask questions. So this is sort of public comment, but it's sort of not because we're trying to get information, right? It's so that we can make a better decision, so.
So what happened, Michael can correct me, but it was discovered by Michael that they did have an independent instructor coming in. Robert, as he explains, took the position that it looked like Michael had the right to use tennis courts exclusively for teaching, i.e. no one else could come on those courts. He now says he has suspended any instruction by others pending our discussion here. So that's, I think, where we stand. It's also a question of, I think, Michael, even without that instruction, you'll see, I just looked, you'll see they're still jammed on Saturday and very maybe an hour or two available, again, Saturday mornings, Friday morning.
Right.
So that's still our problem, and I understand your point. That's where the tennis players would like to be there. And if we extend it till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, what would that do? 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, that would increase by 50% the pickleball time on Saturday morning.
Or offering lessons on Sunday so that you don't get into Saturday. And then if Sunday's being underused and people want lessons, have your pickleball instructor offer them on Sunday, assuming it's accommodated for people's schedule.
Pickleball?
Yeah, for the
Well,
pickleball.
right now, there's just no pickleball offered.
But there's demand for it, so.
Yeah, well, there's no courts. But it takes away from people. That's why we haven't offered any pickleball lessons.
But you said Sunday, there's more availability, so why not offer it on Sunday?
Well, it's open to the public. Like, we're not, like, by the contract with the town, I'm not allowed to offer any pickleball lessons during open pickleball play.
Oh, so there's no time you can offer lessons for pickleball?
There is when it's on pickleball, and then I can use that. Tennis court, I could use it to do pickleball. I'm not supposed to do any pickleball lessons because it takes away a court for people who want to
Play tennis.
That's why we've never
play
offered any
pickleball.
pickleball lessons.
I think Michael's saying when it's time for tennis, he can give pickleball instruction. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So you could technically give it when there's, so after 12 right now then, on
Correct.
Saturdays.
But
for
there's
example.
very little demand for that. That's,
Which is a little strange because you just had to kick off someone who's been teaching for 3 straight hours on Saturday, it
yeah,
sounds like.
but it's in the morning. like every morning during the week.
So after 12, people are just not interested in lessons?
Not much. Most people want to play in the
Okay. Why not have, okay, so another accommodation could be you could have morning pickleball lessons, and then for people who want to play, they have to come in the afternoon.
that would make them mad.
Well, we can hear from some of the public comment to see what we could do there. But
Talking about lessons, Alex,
Yeah.
by Michael?
by Michael, yeah. And then,
Well, by anyone.
it has to run through Michael, I
And you
thought.
would want to keep the open
Does it?
reservations in the morning.
Okay.
That's the highest
Doesn't have-
demand.
Yeah.
Michael has an exclusive to give tennis lessons.
Okay.
There's nothing about pickleball
Pickleball,
lessons. It's just a policy issue. There's no contractual matter.
Okay, wasn't my understanding.
Which is
but-
why the other coach was brought in, right? Because it's not an exclusive.
So another coach is allowed to give pickleball lessons?
Well, no, the policy was not to provide pickleball lessons because it was taking up time that was pickleball playing time.
Yeah.
And the pickleball playing time is at a premium. So so he was asked to stop providing the lessons, and Michael, out of respect for the policy, wasn't providing pickleball lessons, although he could provide pickleball lessons during his golf time, or during his tennis time.
Yeah.
But during the pickleball time, he wasn't providing lessons out of respect for the policy, and the other guy wasn't respecting the policy, and Robert stepped in and
Okay.
made that happen.
So it sounds like we just have some major congestion on Saturday mornings only, and then nobody wants to play
Well,
Saturday
it
afternoons?
seems like there's demand for more pickleball time.
That's what I was, I mean, again, if we take the 40,000, however many foot up view you want to take, it comes down to demand and supply, and it just sounds like there's more demand than supply, which is why some of these longer term permanent pickleball exclusive things, I think, need to be seriously considered.
Yeah. Because I would be in favor of increasing the amount of Saturday time for pickleball and then be able to offer lessons so
Yeah,
that
but
we could satisfy that
Per
demand.
Michael's point, increasing it on Saturday obviously comes out of tennis time,
Yeah,
and that adversely impacts the tennis players.
I see,
I think the big issue is, that I'm interested in hearing Michael talk to is, what do you think about the clay court? And what do you think about an expansion of either the clay court or the handball court to, add
Extra space.
potentially
overall.
both pickleball and some more hard court tennis time?
I think that's probably the best play is to add the 2 courts in the back, play court to hard court, and then court 1 could stay hybrid court. Busy time, they have 4. Then, and it's kind of like everybody's giving a little
Right.
fair. That would probably be the most fair.
But Michael, to do that, what the proposal is to convert the clay court, and then you would lose court 1 permanently for any use whatsoever, as would all tennis players. That would then restrict you to 5 courts.
that's not
That's
what
it.
it's.
That's
You're
not what he's-
saying maybe we keep court 1
As hybrid.
to work back and forth,
Then build the 2
but
courts
that's
back.
not
or
what the donor wants. That's the-
Well, we don't know what the donor wants.
Yeah.
We needed some prices first, just because we can't ask the donor
The other thing
to
is-
do something without
Well, the
giving them.
donor's not going to want to keep the same problem they have right now. That's-
Well, the other thing is that the question that Rick was posing was to get Michael's opinion
Yeah.
on what is the best case scenario, and then
Right.
we can circle back and talk about the donor. But I think what we're trying to decide is what is the best case scenario for all tennis and pickleball players because of the demand that exceeds the supply?
Yeah.
But we have to look very carefully at that alternative, because as I say, here's your 2 choices. One, and I wrote the report on this, 42% of the people responding to the survey chose to have a solely pickleball court. 42% wanted it take over a tennis court. Those are the pickleball players. That's what the proposal is now, is to give them a court. 42% wanted to have it somewhere else, such as in the separate court? Does a separate court solve all your problem, as I mentioned?
I think yeah, the separate court does. I mean,
Yeah, build,
right, build.
yeah.
2 separate courts, but one could also remain hybrid.
No,
That's-
not that one.
And then,
The one with
and then
two
the clay
courts.
court be
one
converted to a
what?
hard court.
No, no, no,
That
no.
would be the most ideal.
Right, and I think that's what we're trying to get at is,
I would recommend this one only because,
This is the one that might,
Taking
this is
away
the
a
one you
tennis
prefer, right?
court entirely,
That
down
one.
to 5 tennis courts.
so Alex, which number is that?
yeah, I mean, you're talking
There's no
about,
number on it?
There's no number on it, but basically you build two new pickleball courts next to the train tracks.
So did everybody get that?
but if,
Oh, yeah.
From Michael's perspective, 2 new pickleball courts that are exclusively pickleball were the handball courts. Court number 1 stays hybrid, pickleball tennis. Clay court gets converted to hard court, clarifying for tennis only.
Right.
okay.
So that's his suggestion, recommendation as an ideal scenario to start with, to maximize supply.
That's one.
Well, Michael, without putting words in your mouth, sounds to me like you're saying the ideal scenario is have them built their own pickleball courts.
Right.
I mean, that's
Yeah, that
number
would-
one. That's
That
what-
would make sense.
That's what everybody voted for, that's a tennis player in the survey.
Right.
Okay. Secondly is the one that Julie mentions, but again, that's not a real proposal. The real proposal is if they convert the clay court and somebody pays for it, the donor, whatever, then you lose court 1 permanently.
No.
Because otherwise,
No, no, no.
otherwise, there's no reason for the pickleball players to pay to convert the clay court.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it's not to lose court 1.
Yeah.
Well, you can extend the hours on
Yeah.
court 1. You don't have to lose it, but
Yeah.
because court 3 becomes more usable for hard court players, they see just more availability, even though they'll lose time on court 1. Bob won.
Still have a convertible.
Yeah.
I like the idea of trying to figure out how we get some more courts for pickleball, because we don't think that demand is going to go down. It's going to go up.
Which is what, yeah.
Okay, and what he's saying makes sense when we think about the longer term is not going to be, it's going to go away. You can see that in the US, it didn't go away. Some people said it would, but it didn't. Okay, so I know that if we can do that, that would be, to me, the best of the opportunity.
What about if you take one court, and I don't know if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but you take one court to keep a hybrid with your special hours or whatever it is. You add on 2 courts where the handball court are that are exclusively
Yeah.
pickleball, open to whoever, whatever, whenever. There's no set hours because they're open all the time. And you put the clay court into a hard.
That's what we just said.
Yeah, so that's
Who's
what
gonna
you
pay
want,
for
but-
that?
But there's no
Well, but we're just starting with the
diagram
ideal.
for
Yeah.
this,
Are
right?
you gonna pay
That's
for
a- That's a
that?
diagram.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who's gonna pay for
There's
it? Yeah,
your clay
okay,
court.
then we'll do it.
No, I thought there was a donor who wanted to do all this.
No, the donor's not signed up for $500,000.
What is the donor
What's the
signed
matter
up
with
for?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Matter
that's
with
what's,
that?
I agree.
I think that's what's
I think we'll
Can't they
unclear.
be a
We'll
little
have-
more expansive?
Well, I think what we'll end up with is a tiered approach of preferences. So we'll have our top preference, it'll probably be the most expensive, and then we'll come on down until something where, and it may not just be one donor, it may be a set of donors of pickleball players that want to get this moving, so we shouldn't just.
Possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole point, was to sort of determine what the best case scenario is, then how much is that going to cost?
Exactly.
Can we afford it? If we can't afford it, what's the next best, solution?
Go ahead, Rick.
So from what you said, the new information for me was that you're not opposed to the conversion of the clay court to a hard court. Because previously, you wanted to retain the clay court, or that was my understanding.
Yeah, if possible. I mean, but I mean, I think if the demand, it seems like it's going to be difficult. Not that many people use it. In the summer, it's used a lot, but besides that.
Good, yeah, because when I look at the usage.
Yeah, it's
and-
slow.
Yeah, and you can always tell what, I always say, well, if the tennis players want, they can use the clay court, but I'm being told they don't want to use the clay court. But I always see it available for a lot of time on Saturday. So it's kind of like, well, if it's not being used enough, then
Well, so let me lay out two scenarios that I think are realistic. One is, these images aren't numbered, but I think it's image number 1, 2, 3. One possibility is to convert the clay court to a hard court, which is a couple $100,000, and to convert court 1 to 4 permanent pickleball courts. That probably adds a little bit of tennis time, not much, but a little bit of tennis time, right? Because court 1 right now is partial tennis, and you'd be and the clay court is very partial tennis. And you'd be substituting the clay court to permanent tennis, which I think is more. And you'd be substituting court 1 to 4 permanent pickleball courts, which would double the pickleball availability, more than double, because they'd be permanent. That's one option that I see that.
It would actually be a loss of tennis. Clay court is like, let's say Saturday. I mean, we do use the court for younger kids.
Right. So let me just lay out the other, and then you tell me what you think. So to me, that is within the range of what I expect the donor is willing to do, that, although we could get more than one donor.
Yes.
And that could change the whole deal. Yeah. But that's one possibility. The other possibility is the next image, which is converting the clay court to 2 pickleball courts and keeping the shared court 1 as it is. That doesn't change tennis time. It's identical to what it is right now. It increases pickleball time by creating 2 new permanent pickleball courts. And that leaves the clay court as the clay court, unless we end up with more than one donor, in which case we could convert the clay court, and that'd be a lot more tennis time.
I'm sorry, Rick, did you say convert the clay court to 2 pickleball courts?
No, I said image 5
Yep.
is converting the handball court to 2 pickleball courts.
Great. Perfect.
And leaving the current court 1 as a shared court.
Right.
And unless there's additional donors, it doesn't do anything with the clay court. And I'm not sure which of those two options
I
is
think that
preferable.
last one you just said would probably be preferable out of options.
Yeah.
Okay.
are there any other questions for Michael?
Michael, looking at what Councilman DeGoya just said, number 1, if you convert the clay court and you lose then entirely court 1, because it's going to be 4 pickleball courts, that's going to leave only 5 courts maximum for you and all other tennis players. That's what we've avoided so far because it doesn't work. And that's why we recommended something different to the council in September. Has anything changed?
No, that's still
Yeah.
probably the worst.
I mean, you're entitled to 4 courts during the week. That leaves 1 court for all other tennis players to fight over.
Right.
And that, I don't see how that fits with what we want to do here.
Probably within the last one that Rick brought up, you know, the clay court, the 2 new courts, the best.
That's image, your view is image number.
The image, I think it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
4, okay, all right,
Have it on the screen, Frank, too.
gotcha, okay, good, yep.
The 4 courts that Michael
That's
was,
the best use of the space.
Yeah, I agree,
I
I
mean,
agree completely.
we know, I mean, Alex's point is, we know the clay court isn't very used, but there are some people that like it, and Player Capital during the summer uses it for young kids. So it's used. I think that image number 4, because it creates 2 new pickleball courts and maintains the current pickleball situation on court
On court one,
it's definitely better for pickleball players. There's no question about that.
But you could also leave the 2 courts on the handball court. You could leave those outside the fence and they could be Woodstock. They could, they could be wide open for pickleball without having to be keyed or whatever.
Well.
I mean, I don't
yeah,
know.
If you wanted to do that.
If that's.
That's a different,
If that's the sense.
that's an additional issue.
Correct, I understand. But if that's a prevailing issue, then you could maintain the existing perimeter and add that and, let them have it, so.
Well, that takes donor dollars and converts the handball court into 2 pickleball courts, which, I mean, in terms of the use of space, it's probably the best use of
Agreed.
space. I mean, there's obviously some open questions. We haven't had any noise problems with pickleball,
Let me,
Which is the biggest.
but that pushes pickleball closer to the, Felton Gable residents.
We would have to add baffling
They
fencing
have to
around
add
there.
baffling for sure.
Let me address that for a minute, Rick. When we looked at our prior recommendation, the police person who enforces sound and I went over, and we both had devices, including your phone, which she says is as good as anything, and we couldn't get a negative reading even 20 feet away behind the baffling.
Yeah, so we haven't had any noise problem with pickleball.
Well, but this will be closer, and what I'm saying is I don't see a problem even being closer.
Yeah, given the experience that we've had, I would share that assessment.
And even the tennis players who are closest don't complain because the baffling is helping them.
If I could,
Now, the only other question I have is this does not impede on the safe route to school, does it?
No,
Okay,
no, doesn't have any impact on that.
okay.
if I could make another proposal, if you do the resurfacing of Court 1, you could still have a shared tennis and pickleball, but you resurface for 4 courts of pickleball. So you actually increase.
Say that again?
So in Court 1, instead of resurfacing for pure pickleball, you could still have a shared tennis and pickleball hybrid setup. But now you can instead stripe for 4 pickleball courts instead of 2.
Even with the net still up?
Yeah, you could, because you can have 2 sets of nets, or 4 sets of nets, I should say.
Yeah, well, I understand the 4 sets,
Yeah.
but that's crammed in there.
That's how they usually have pickleball, is they cram it in there.
Well,
I've always thought like that's too much cramming, but I've talked to pickleball players, they say, oh, that's perfectly fine. They're happy with it. They want,
Well, they're happy when you tear out the center net, I believe, and you make it into a real solely tennis court.
yes, that's their preference.
That's what they've done at Nelo.
Well, I think we should hear from pickleball.
Sure,
players
sure.
on that.
Yeah, right,
So
let's do that.
I want to make sure we're done with all the questions for Michael. If we have no more questions for Michael, we can move
We can
on.
have him back later.
Okay, yes, we can call him back.
Thank you, Michael.
Never
Thank
see
you,
him
Michael, for
again.
being here. Do we have any public comment from in the room that you guys want to give?
Hi, I'm Jill Zanoli.
I am a pickleball key holder, also a resident of Felton Gable, back up to the park, so I'm actually right behind the
You're valuable.
place. So first want to start by saying thank you. We had a key since February. We really enjoyed just being on the court, hearing the baseball field, whatever, it's been wonderful. What I would like to say about Saturdays in particular is how the sign-up system works is you can sign up starting at midnight a week before. And we have been told that the Saturday morning hours are often gone by 12:01
Wow.
p.m. People are staying up till midnight. Yeah, p.m. Sorry. Staying up till midnight so that they can play on Saturdays. So
That's Michael's point.
it is very clear that there is a lot of demand. The other thing is, and I'm not sure if this is possible or not, but there are times from 12 to 4. From 12 to 4 where there is no pickleball. And I don't know if there's a way that you can force the tennis to play on other courts first. And then if there's courts available, then pickleball can also be played. I don't know what to do to.
Yes,
Oh,
Walt's,
okay.
No,
headphones.
that's okay. It
Okay.
might be,
I thought
might
it
be
was
me.
me.
Go
That's why I
ahead.
was trying to
No, I
step
think
away.
it might be mine.
Anyway, I think there are ways you so that there could be more tennis and more pickleball at the same time. But that was really what I wanted to say. Saturdays and Sundays are huge. If there were ever any afternoons in the middle of the week, that would be great too. But thank you for considering everything that you're considering. And, you know, I think if you look at the signups, you'll see pickleball is really in high demand. I've got bruises to prove it. It's super fun and we're loving it. Thank you.
Jill, if we could ask, what would be ways to, well, do you have a preference for the permanent courts? And what are the ways to alleviate the Saturday demand for lessons and Saturday demand for playing time? So it's kind of three questions.
I don't know so much about the demand for lessons. I do know there was an individual who was giving lessons. My understanding is he was a key holder and was only signing up for his 1 hour and teaching lessons in that period of time. But I don't know if the gentleman you're talking about is the same person or not, if there's multiple ones. So I don't know. Maybe he would like to teach 3 to 4 hours. I don't know that he was. This is the first we've seen the thing. My question would be like, what is the spacing for the 4? And is there enough room to like be moving back and moving sideways? I know that Nealon has it, and I've been told that this court is a little bit bigger than Nealon, so it's definitely doable. But this is for the 4 on the 1 court. So, you know, the tennis court goes this way and then you set them up this way. So there's 2 on each side of the net. And you turn it differently than how it is right now. It's more crowded. The 3 one was beautiful, but you can't have a tennis net if you've got the 3 on there. I think that's probably the better space, but there are a lot of people that play at Nealon or they're perfectly happy with the 4. So if it's a matter of space, you know, I guess I would vote for the 2 and
The pickleball players I've talked to, I always thought 3 was the preference because they wanted some space, but they said, give us 4. We want 4. We have the demand. We don't mind playing near people. And I said, okay, if you guys really want 4, because we have one chance to do it if we either restripe or do something permanent, because it'll cost money to change it back to something.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So.
I have 2 quick questions. Since you guys are Felton Gables, noise has not been an issue with anything?
Yeah, if you both can talk if you want, yeah.
I'm Steve Zanoli.
This is my husband,
Oh,
Steve.
okay.
We live behind the play school, and when we sit out in our backyard, we can hear it, but we're not annoyed by it.
It's not a bothersome thing.
I've done a lot
But
of
you
like.
hear the kids playing in the play school, you hear the
Sure.
baseball field. It's no
No, but do you
And the
hear,
train, don't forget the train.
The train, well, you tune out the train after a
do
while.
you hear pickleball from your,
Yes.
That's what the
If
question
you
was.
listen for it, at our house, you can hear it. But we're probably 6 houses down. So, you know, at 2 houses down, I think they can probably hear it, but they could hear the tennis. It's not like tennis is silent, right? And I do think those sound barriers you guys put up do
Help a lot.
nice job of muffling the sound quite a bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, we don't live right behind it. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually hear it more than people close. Because when you put baffles up, the sound
Kind of,
goes over it.
yeah.
Right? Because we can't hear the tennis players at all when we're playing on the pickleball court, but if you step back, then the
Yeah.
sound gets pushed over the baffle.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's quieter closer to the courts than it is at our house.
Okay.
It's
And there
not
is
the
some
talk-
bias
it's not
since
the
you guys
talk-
are players,
Like when
right?
we're walking. on
Right,
walks
you
and
don't hear
stuff,
from,
I don't hear people say, oh, you're a pickleball player. I can't believe how loud it is. I have not experienced
that's
that.
amazing. That's great news though, because you know, it's been such an issue in so many other places.
I think the one question I would have, because we don't obviously know Michael's situation in Players Capital in terms of, on the weekends, there are a lot of times where we are playing till noon on Saturday and people aren't showing up for tennis, so we just continue to play, or we've been told we can sign up for the court if it's available. I think limiting that court until the other ones are full would be a huge benefit. You know, I know some pickleball players, we won't name them, but we'll be happy to sign up for tennis and play pickleball, open court. I know you guys have done a lot of studies, obviously, the surveys, and you're keeping track of the hours of pickleball. Is there any way to, not to take away from tennis, but to condense and make them be more efficient with their use of time, to give us more time? And if it's full, then we can get a study of all the courts really being used 100% of the time. Because there are times on Saturdays that we'll leave at noon and people will be coming on to play tennis, but 3 other courts are open.
Like court
We-
2 will be
Yeah.
open and they'll kick us off of pickleball on court 1, and there's like, why can't they go to
Court 2, 3, or
first?
4.
They don't want to.
But they signed up.
They
But
signed
they
up
think
for
it's
court 1.
reserved, and
They
it's,
think
They
it's
signed up.
reserved.
we've heard people don't show up for the reservations.
Yeah, that
Right,
happens.
and they just signed up for 1 because it was the first one that popped up, and they didn't realize that 2, 3, and 4 were also open. And
Do you realize that after the council set the rules now, that you can play pickleball anytime?
They said that.
That it's not
Yeah, we
being
know.
used? Okay.
Actually, I think you told us that. We
That's
bumped
right,
into you
I
in the park
did.
that one
But we
time.
also, yeah, but we also want to be, you guys have been very generous in giving us the court and doing these temporary hours and seeing what the demand is, that we don't want to have tennis players show up and we're playing on their tennis court and they're like, well, I thought this was just for tennis. So we're trying to be respectful of the rules. And I think if on Saturday afternoons, if the other 4 courts aren't taken, why can't pickleball just have court 1? I think you'll find, and maybe it's not now because I think the demand is going to just continue to grow.
Exactly, which is what I
We
keep saying.
used to be the only, there used to be 8 of us and we play on Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Can we listen to our citizens, please?
Well, they don't live here, so.
All these-
Wait. Hey,
Do we have a sergeant in arms?
let's,
One conversation?
I think,
Okay.
as my wife said, there are, now people getting up at 12:01 in the morning.
Which is
It used
insane.
to be that we'd sign up, for 8 to 10 or 10 to 12. We have 5 or 6 key holders and we kind of block it out so we all play. And now there are just more and more groups doing that. I mean, we see the same people out there every morning, every Saturday, every Sunday. And I think people would extend in the afternoons if it was available. Obviously, mornings are preferable when it's 85 or 90 degrees.
Right.
People will play in the afternoons if it's available. So given what, what we heard tonight, I would think, and again, we're just speaking for the 2 of us, given the cost, it certainly seems like, first extending hours would be, so you guys could see if the demand there or not. And then going to 4 courts, that doesn't cost you much money. See if the demand's there for that. And then we can talk about handball courts and having 6 courts. I think there's a way you can stagger this out and see if the demand's there. I think you'll find it will be there and then some. In terms of giving lessons, I think we know one people that was giving lessons. I don't know if it was him having a key or if we signed up for the court as a key holder and invited him to give us a lesson. That's for your guys' judgment to decide whether people should be giving private lessons on public courts. I mean, I hit golf balls at the Stanford driving range. I'm not supposed to give lessons there either, but it's amazing how many people are giving lessons to people on the mat. Not very good lessons. But giving lessons.
Since you do live in Menlo Park, do you play on their courts? They have not only Nealon, but a lot of other courts.
Well, we're
We
key
started in,
holder,
we
but
started
do
in
play
Elon.
too.
We started in Elon, and then when you guys did this, I mean, this is right out of our back
Walking-
gate.
it's walking
and so
distance,
we're
right.
like, we pay for the key, and, it's reserved, which is nice. Do you have a gate from your house? We do.
Oh, you did?
So my other question, I never got to my second question. My other question is, and thanks for your input about, the capacity and all of that. Do you guys just have a brief general point of view on open play?
and enforcing open play because we're using a key, unlike some other communities.
If you do open play, those courts will not be able to handle it.
That's kind of what I'm
There'll be people
thinking. We
there-
barely have the demand for
There'll be people
no
there all
open
day,
play.
every day,
Yeah.
all hours. I mean, you see it at Nealon. I mean, we stopped going over there because at the time they have 4 courts. And there are times over there where the 4 courts are full and there are 16 paddles in the racks waiting to
Yeah.
play during that time. So I think, selfishly, make people buy a key and sign up to play. If you had excess courts, then you could do open play, sure, but I
Gotcha.
think there's plenty of demand to fill the reservations.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
What we could do, I think, like listening, like maybe 24 hours before the tennis time, if there's open court, we just open it and then we can just open it to pickleball.
Well, Michael, I was just thinking, is there some way for the signups, it's instead of signing up for court 1 or court 2 or whatever, can we sign up for next available court?
Well, that's what I was saying. I was saying that we could actually just make it open
Yeah.
to pickleball. Like,
Just,
if like if there's a tennis court open, we can just move them to the tennis and then
Yeah.
actually make it reservable.
yeah,
He can move people from court 1 to one of the other courts if the other courts
Okay,
That would accomplish what you guys.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that would
If
accomplish.
then, and then it was open so that pickleball could sign up there.
Yeah, and they could
That-
sign
that
up
would
to,
be
like, do
fabulous.
it like give the tennis players their priority, but if it's not reserved 24 hours in advance, then
move them over.
pickleball
Yeah,
is reserved.
that's a
Yeah,
good idea.
How would people know that there's pickleball, that they can, so is it kind of like open play or?
No, they can reserve it.
Not open.
Oh, okay, so within 24 hours, if,
Like, well,
okay.
if, let's say court 2, like, let's say there's an extra court open. You can just close that court and pickleball 24 hours in it.
And it would only be to a hard court, not to the clay court? Move the
Yeah,
clay.
yeah, you're
Okay,
right.
Okay.
I mean, midnight's nothing. I want them to sign up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
We thought somebody had a bot at first, but I think we're getting up at 12 o'clock.
I did, I asked him, I'm like, do you have a bot?
So, yeah, I think that would be a good proposal because then you could conceivably have a lot more time, right?
Right.
All day Saturday if there's no
Yeah,
one
there'd
signing up
actually
for
be
it.
like, because then it could just, pickleball people know, check 24 hours in advance, and there could be a lot more time.
And then no one could use it for lessons because no one's going to try to sign someone up for lessons 24 hours before the event.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, that would be good.
I have a
Yep.
question. I mean, obviously, Michael has this information. How is the demand on the weekends for tennis? Because again, we play Saturdays and Sunday morning, sometimes Sunday afternoon. There are open tennis courts. I mean, are they as packed as the pickleball?
Not as much at tennis, they like, because there's a lot of running. Everybody likes to play morning, but that's all taken from the pickleball. So, so that's why it looks like there's not as much tennis on the weekend because the non-prime time hours.
Would the pickleball people want to switch to the afternoons and then get more time in the afternoons? That's just something that occurred to me.
No,
Everybody
I'm
likes the morning.
just wondering, I'm just trying to find
it's
ways
this
that,
time of year, right? I mean,
okay.
You can tell actually because we do have afternoons on Tuesdays and Thursdays, late afternoons, and there's nowhere near the demand there that there is in the morning.
it's picking up
Take a look, it's starting to be, because
We
we
play
play
every-
on Tuesdays.
every Tuesday afternoon.
four.
Yeah, I saw more. Yeah.
And it's been, used to be able, you could just show, on Sunday, you could look, like, oh, when do we want to play on Tuesday? And now it's like, we got to get our thing in.
The light, people are playing, sign up at 4, 5:30, 7. They're filling up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there
We really
anyone
enjoyed it.
online there are no questions online? Okay. So I'll bring it back to the committee. Do we have any?
Actually,
closing thoughts?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Don Keller. I had spoken at the last meeting. My strong preference would be that we do this right, and that when we do it, we build a community of players in Atherton that's really special. And I think you need 4 courts to accomplish that. I think anything less than that, and it's hard to build that community. So I think we should really aspire to do this right. And I think having those courts together creates the community. In contrast to some of the other pickleball players that spoke, I think open play is really terrific. And maybe there's a combination like they do in Portola Valley that we would settle on, but I think that's a secondary question. I think the biggest question is, are we building enough so that we can have a community of folks and really make this into a special place? And I think anything less than 4 does not achieve that.
Okay. And then, so your preference would be just any of the proposals that have 4 courts? It doesn't matter which?
Well, I think 4 together, actually, even though it's crowded, creates the ability to have people move more easily. I think if you spread it out, there's some courts in Palo Alto, for example, that are spread out like that. And I think it's difficult to sort of optimize on the use of the courts that way.
Okay.
The other comment I would make is,
So we had a question, why is it not as efficient if they're spread out?
because it's harder to see which court is available, and when the courts are really contiguous, there's a lot of sort of movement as games are finished and people move on and people move off the court, and it's pretty efficient that way. And if it's separated, it's hard to know where people are playing.
Are you talking about what I see at Mitchell Park, for instance, that does have two separated courts, but basically there's large numbers of people there, all milling around, I mean, waiting, and that's open play. That's very different than what we have so far here. So you're asking really for an entire change of how pickleball's run here?
I think optimally, I think a combination of reservations and open play would be the way to build a terrific community of pickleball players in Atherton. I think that would be great.
So let me say about open play, we have to reconcile that we use a key system. So I'm happy to entertain any idea that we can get open play in, but we have to be able to make it work, that we have a key system that right now is sort of an honor system where if we have open play, we worry about like a lot of people would come, they wouldn't have keys. We have to make sure at least one person on the court has keys and they know someone there. So that's kind of the difficulty I have in accepting a system of open play until we have some way to really enforce that part because of the way our system works in Atherton.
Yeah. I come back to, I really think the goal, in my view, should be to aspire to build a terrific community for the benefit of the residents in the community. And I think that should be what guides us here. And there may be issues with the keys and what's open play and that sort of thing. But I really think, I mean, right now, for example, I'm on the East Coast in Chatham, Massachusetts, and they built 6 beautiful pickleball courts. And it's a terrific community of people. There's 60 people that were there today coming in and out, and everybody gets to know each other. It's a really awesome, unusual sport in that respect. And I think we should aspire to something like that as opposed to sort of viewing this as a bit of a nuisance.
Well, I'll say that whoever puts up the money will have their vision more likely implemented than others, or will definitely have a say because it's their money being used. But that's something out there, you know, for just because the least expensive choice is the Court 1 choice, just doing that conversion, but the other ones are in the 6-figure range. So those will be more difficult to fund. So that if there's a vision that we want to implement any of those, we're going to have to find the money to pay for it. Are there any other questions for this resident? No? Okay. So let me bring it back to, well, thank you, Don. Let me bring it back to our committee. So what do you guys want? What do you guys think?
Are we voting on something tonight?
We don't need a vote. We can give our thoughts.
Okay.
And if we have some preference, a consensus on a preference that, you know, we can recommend it to staff and council.
We have one more person.
Oh, we do? Okay. We can have that person talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Nina Burnett. I started the meeting late, so I wasn't sure if you had read out any of the correspondence that Jonathan Rosenberg has sent to the town about the pickleball situation. He's not able to attend, so I just wanted to make sure.
Jonathan did send something to me, but he didn't ask me to share it with.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, he sent something to me because I wasn't, he wasn't going to be able to attend. So I just wanted to see if the council had taken that into account. But I will say that.
So I think he emailed the council, but not our committee.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
all right.
You can, I can't, because it was like 3 weeks ago. I can't quite remember everything he said, but but if you want to summarize your thoughts and his thoughts, that's fine.
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate for this particular segment because it's more to do with the sort of economics of player capital's monopoly over the tennis courts. So I don't know if that's something that needs to be discussed.
Let's talk about, pickleball, because
Yes.
so what is your vision in terms of how you want permanent courts, if there's a need for greater pickleball hours where we can also accommodate tennis players, we kind of want thoughts on that.
Okay. So first, I would again like to thank the committee and the town of Atherton for even entertaining pickleball at the tennis courts, because it's a fantastic sport. Some people may not think it's a sport, but it is. And we thoroughly enjoy it. And as previously discussed, there is huge demand for pickleball. So my vision would be if we could get additional courts. I think 4 makes sense. And even with the tennis net in between the 4 courts, it works. Because I, have played at Neyland, I've played at Portola Valley. Alpine Hills just restriped and they put 4 courts in. It's a little snug, but it's fine. So yes, if we could somehow manage to get 4 courts in, that would be great. Obviously, we'd love them to be exclusive to pickleball, but for peace and harmony, we can do a hybrid if necessary. I'm not sure if there's enough demand to go to the extra expense of resurfacing other areas like the clay or the handball courts, but you guys have better data on that than I do. With respect to open play, I struggle with that because of the key situation. I don't know how we would manage it, and I don't know that it makes sense. I understand the desire to build a larger pickleball community, but I just can't think of a way to make that work. And with respect to lessons, I know there was quite a bit of dialogue around that. I will say that it is nice to be able to select your coach, because you need to be able to resonate with that person. And I think it's a little bit different as an adult choosing an instructor than a child going to a tennis clinic, for example. So, I'm kind of picky as to who I want to take lessons from. So it'd be nice to have options. And with respect to it taking up time from the court, if you are a key holder and you have your 1 hour, my view is I should be able to use that hour to drill with my friends, play with my friends, or take a lesson. So aside from, other issues of the town approving the instructor and all that jazz, I do think that it should not compete with other people's use of the court. You get your hour and you can do what you want on the court.
So I do want to come, I know Jonathan talked to me about it, but I'll just kind of bring it up again on the subject of having your own vendor. There's 2 issues that are kind of big in there. One is insurance. So if an instructor and the student gets injured, the town has liability, but this town gets sued. The instructor might not have many assets, but the town will get sued. So the town needs indemnification, which Player Capital has insurance so that the town's indemnified. Another problem is this is a public court, and I can't go to any public area and start making money off of that area without consideration for who owns the property, whether it's the town or private property, right? So that's another problem. If we have lots and lots of people doing just private lessons, and then the key holders won't have time to play, because they're making money, and other people who just want to play who bought a key. So those are kind of my 2 big concerns about letting outside vendors in who don't have approval from the town to go through it.
Oh, no, I fully understand. I appreciate that. I think there needs to be a mechanism or perhaps the town could come up with metrics or a mechanism for somebody to get the insurance and to, just get the business license or whatever is required by the town to provide a lesson. And again, this would only be for people that are key holders, because the key holder would, presumably find this qualified individual, hire this person for an hour, and off we go, right? And it's not taking time away from somebody else because the key holder has their allotted 1 hour.
Yeah, I see difficulty in that because you're asking the town to spend a lot of staff time managing vendors. And then you get maybe, 10 they have to manage and who signed up for what, and then they got to coordinate, they sign up for this time or that time. Then you've got the town having to pay to manage vendors. And then it becomes a money loser for the town, right? That's why most towns have one vendor for a lot of their services. They say, we'll pick one vendor, everyone goes through that vendor if they want to use the service.
Okay.
It just makes things a lot easier. I mean, if you want to have someone manage it for the town, we can do that. But I don't think anybody wants to do that anyway.
No, I understand. I understand your point. I'm just, saying that, personally, I would like to be able to choose an instructor. And so maybe there needs to be a way for Player Capital to open up their, their roster of pickleball instructors.
So I'll let Michael decide how he wants to do the pickleball.
Let me,
Go ahead.
But yeah.
I think Nina's point about if you are a key holder and you reserve time, you should be able to use the time for whatever you want, makes a lot of sense. It's really different from what's happened, because what's happened is the instructor reserved 5 or 6 times during the week. So it wasn't the key holder, the resident key holder, that reserved his or her time and then brought in an instructor. That makes sense to me, and I think Alex's point around insurance is something that has to be worked through. It has, I mean, that's a necessity. And I don't know what the issue is with the town there, and it may be that they can't do it, but it may be that they can. But the key issue here is that the instructor reserved the time, where if it's the key holder that's reserving the time, it's kind of a different deal.
Yeah. And now Robert, our Public Works Director, has to manage all this and police it, and that takes time out of his day to actually do public works that the residents want. And so the town doesn't want to get involved in that because it's, being a police officer for things it doesn't want to have to be a police officer over. Okay, well, is there anything else, Nina, you wanted to share?
No, I think that's it. But I do have one random question for you. If I trip and fall on the pickleball courts, could I not sue Atherton?
You probably signed a waiver of some sort, I would imagine. I don't know. I haven't signed up for a tennis key, so I don't know if.
No, okay. I just wanted to ask the question because you made a very specific point about the instructor, and if something happened while in the course of being instructed, we could sue. And so I didn't see how that was any different from if I just had an incident. So
it might be if the instructor made you do something past your ability, and then you got injured because he pushed you too hard or she pushed you too hard.
Okay.
And they say, well, we're on town property, and the town must have given him permission or her permission to teach this way. And so the town, I mean, the lawyers will always go after the people with the largest pockets. They're not going to necessarily go after the tennis instructor, but look for anyone who could be remotely liable and sue them if they have big pockets. Anyways.
Okay.
Okay, let's bring it back to the committee. Is there a recommendation we have or consensus we have for staff and the council? Anyone want to chime in?
Well, I started this, and I think my view remains the same with one change, and that is, it seems to me that the recommendation would be short-term and long-term. Long-term, I think we should still explore having the conversion of the handball court into 2 courts, while we would also maintain a some shared activity on court one, but it would be much more available for tennis, and only be needed when there was a problem to get to 4 courts. This talk about 4 courts, to me, envisions kind of what the one gentleman talked about, Don Keller, kind of a mass view of what pickleball is. We looked at that last year, and we decided, and the council agreed, that that was not something we wanted to do. We thought we could have a little open play, but that was actually scotched by the council for good reason. It's very hard to actually administer that. And Sundays, when we were going to have it, is very full already with reservations, and as I heard, the reservations are really much more popular. So I would say, in my view, I think we'd like to explore the separate courts, which would give all the flexibility in the world for lessons and anything else they wanted to do with, of course, appropriate insurance. But we need the cost factor, and I mentioned at the outset, there should be better cost factors around to do. In the short term, I agree it'd be wonderful to extend the hours on Saturday, but from what I heard from Player Capital is that would be very difficult. So I would, and that's a conflict. And Saturday, remember, we're not just talking about the summer, we're talking about during the year when kids would have more availability to play on the weekends rather than school time. So I would rather suggest that as short term, we have a 4-court stripe, which has been mentioned. I didn't realize you could do that efficiently with having the tennis net up. It seems to me that would ameliorate every issue I've heard. And more availability, 4 courts, people wouldn't be fighting at midnight, presumably, to get on the reservations. And anyway, and that would give a much more, what Don said, Don Keller, there'd be twice the number of people playing at one time. So he would get his community that way. So that's what I would suggest that we look at. I will also point out that when we sent our recommendation to council last year, we recommended that this funding by pickleball players should be explored if they want more capacity. We didn't have any idea there'd be a donor there, but we did recommend that, and I think the council referred to that when they changed the hours and did things like that. So anyway, that would be what I would think we should explore, short-term and long-term, and that'd be a combination recommendation.
So Walt, if I'm looking at that, that would be proposal number 3. Is that, I mean,
Handball court.
The handball court conversion.
That, only.
number 1, court 1 would be converted?
No.
Just
The
a
handball court.
But I'm saying for the
conversion.
short run, you said 4. I thought you meant,
Different issue.
Okay.
Short term, right.
Gotcha.
Take court 1 and restripe it because we can get 4.
for the short term, we would do proposal 3, and then eventually we would build what is proposal number 4.
Right.
Correct, okay,
And to
gotcha.
do that, we would explore, or Rick would, whether they would like to fund that.
Gotcha.
You know, and I think once you start.
Doesn't convert the clay court.
Right, correct. It's just court 1 would be converted to 4, gotcha.
Will, for the converting to 4 courts, is it negligible, like, less than 3,000-4,000, or is it the same? No, it's the same. 25 to
Same,
30,000. Okay, so even for a short term, it's going to cost 25 to 35,000.
We did it once.
I know, but
Well, I don't think this is short term. Take
Okay,
a
okay,
long
okay.
time before we ever got to the long term, in my view. Does he have a speaker?
I think what Walt's saying is to do striping, not a permanent conversion. So that would be about $2,000. Not to convert the court
to- okay.
permanent. That's a different thing where you put permanent nets and stuff.
Quick, relatively inexpensive, short-term.
Okay.
So it's not,
Because if it was 25 to
proposal
30,000, that's,
that's the
Okay,
permanent,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
This is like the temporary conversion.
so we could rip up the current 2-court conversion, lay down tape for the 4 court, or whatever
Well,
paint.
they would just restripe it the
Just restripe it,
other
okay.
way. So, I think striping is like 400 a court, so that's 600 and then whatever 2 nets is.
I have 2 Eagle Scouts who want to take that project on tomorrow morning.
They're just going to take a paintbrush and. Okay. Oh. So does anyone else have an opinion on that?
I would concur in the short term and the long term. I think ultimately the long term is what would be desirable. And if we can alleviate the pressure on pickleball about doing the short term, then I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, definitely the short term, having more courts, if it doesn't have any, I guess, more downside for tennis, or it's not, is it okay for tennis? I mean, you already got the stripes for the 2 pickleball courts, adding some more stripes on the sides. It's annoyance, but.
Yeah, it is an annoyance to have stripes all over it and play on it, and I try to stay away from that as much as I can.
Okay.
I have enough problems.
Prioritize the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, maybe that's
That's right. You really have to do that. And I guess there's just a basic thing for me, and maybe I'm just too old for this group, but I'm not interested in a social gathering of pickleball players at Holbrook Palmer Park. I want to give them the courts that they can have and they can use and have enough that they can play pickleball. But I'm not interested at all in some of the things that I've watched at other pickleball places that would happen in Holbrook Palmer Park.
okay. And then another thing that can help with the Saturday play without changing the hours is having that 24-hour sign-up time you proposed, Michael. I think that would make the pickleball folks much happier without having to increase time. And yeah. So when you have that down, can you inform the key holders of this new possibility? And then I think they'll be very happy to hear that. And then hopefully you'll be able to work out through that some kind of ways to accommodate those who want pickleball lessons, and because there is a demand for it, and I'm not exactly sure what to do to fix that. But there's more. Then you could okay. So maybe then. And so you're okay with the repainting to 4 courts? Okay. So maybe we make that recommendation to council, and then if everyone's okay with long-term investigating the handball court, changing the handball court into 2 courts, we can have that as, if donors come, especially among the pickleball community, if they want to get together and try to put something together to fund that, or if they have another idea, but we could say, our committee is recommending the handball court, but if someone's handing us a check for $500K, we're happy to try to accommodate whatever use for that money we can.
And it sounds like if the donor were to make the donation to the foundation, that's a $200,000 cost, not a $300,000 cost.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any, I think we covered most things in the, I think we're done, right, for this topic?
Alex, let me just point out, I've looked very carefully at the reservation. Sunday is very heavily reserved.
It is,
So
okay.
don't think that that's kind of open for some other use. There are a lot of people playing on Sunday. That turned out to be the smartest thing that the council and we did before.
But only the 4 courts is going to give a lot of.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
4 courts would
Yeah.
solve the issue.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we could bring in lessons too for
Right.
Michael to provide.
Right.
Okay, great.
So not to rain on anybody's parade, but I read an article in Sports Illustrated about the fastest growing sport called paddle or padel. So what do we do about that? Come on, what do we do about that? Come on, think ahead, guys,
Can
come
you
on.
use a pickleball court for that?
No, it's apparently slightly different.
It has
It has-
walls?
it's slightly
You mean
different,
like a handball court?
Start thinking ahead. It's the largest growing sport, fastest growing sport.
Okay, well, I'll worry about that next year when we get that demand. But But thank you, Zanolis. Thank you, Michael, for taking the time. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad we could find accommodation for everyone. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you talk through it.
I really appreciate you guys coming.
Yeah, thank you.
A good fourth.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Okay, park, restroom, and playground. So my son's about ready to have kids himself, so are they ready?
I have Scott on the line. He's going to be handling this subject.
Okay.
Scott, are you there?
Hey, Scott.
Yes, I'm here.
Put you as a co-host, so go ahead and take.
Got it. So let me share my screen. And I believe in our last meeting that we had where I was present, we went over the playground a little bit. And January 15th, we went to council with kind of our recommendation from the Parks and Rec Committee. This was the original layout that we went to the council meeting with. The change here, and I know you have the renderings in front of you in the packet, but I wanted to show you this before we got into that to just kind of go through the changes. So when I flip back and forth here, you can see these shade structures here. We made those larger. So we did go from kind of a smaller footprint of 16 feet to about 20 feet. We also added shade over the playground. So you can see this layout of a 20-foot shade structure over here and a 20-foot shade structure on this side. A little different in how they're set up. We also added these chimes over here. That's 9 wind chimes that basically come up out of the ground. You can see them in that rendering, basically a musical element. We did add PIP all through the younger kid area. So the 2 to 5 area does have PIP everywhere. We added this little cutout corner for a willow hut, which is the same one that is going in at the library playground. This surface here, it can either be PIP or wood chips. The area is so small that the cost doesn't really make a difference on what we want to put here. So it's priced out for either. Because when you have PIP coming with a turn down, the cost kind of outweighs if you just did wood chips or you just continued with the PIP the whole way. We did change out
Yeah, I think the council expressed a preference for PIP everywhere.
Yeah, so this, as of right now, this is going to be all PIP. And this here, we did have 4 log benches, so we did go into some of the comments we received. We have an ADA bench as well as a picnic table here. So an ADA picnic table and another picnic table. The swing situation, based off the comments from council, we were able to, for what's the code and what we're able to do, we have basically this ADA gravity seat, which we had on the other one, and then we have 2 belt swings next to each other, and then we have this expression swing here. So it's kind of like a seat swing with where you can have an adult on it with them, and then you have this ADA, it's called a G0 seat, similar to what's out there now. It's got the protective seat cover over it, the bar that comes down. This additional shade here, and then this was one of the comments that just to show that council wanted a
Hey,
merry-go.
Scott, I have a question.
Yeah.
On the swing, so between the expression swing and the ADA swing, there's 2 regular swings?
Yes, there's 2 belt swings.
Okay, great.
Yep. And you'll see that the way that it's set up, these are basically 2 different bays. So we have the belt swing on this side and the belt swing on this way. You'll have a circular bar here as kind of the support system.
Yeah.
But you'll have the 2 belt swings next to each other.
No problem.
And then this just shows that the merry-go-all, which was the bigger spinner, wasn't able to fit with all the spacing in the fall zones. This orange area, you can see the overlap with the log. You know, if we were to take this log and rotate it a little bit, this is where you'd get the orange, and then this circle would overlap these 2 areas. So you can't per code, you can't put one of the bigger spinners in there. And this basically where we're at with this is the layout that we made changes from council's comments, and those are being provided to council for their comments and recommendation. So we're waiting on that feedback, and once we do, we will be, all set, ready to go. The turnaround time for this, obviously, we're not going to be doing anything over the summer. It would be after the summer ends. The procurement on this, we're working out the details on. The goal is to basically be able to use the Omnia contract, which is a co-op, and there's government pricing on all of these items down to a T, and it would save the town a lot of money in regards to an overall cost from going out to bid for a contractor, giving us unknown prices and everything.
What's your estimate right now, Scott, on cost?
To a T with everything, contingency and 8% contingency, with install, demo, everything that you see here is 1.269.
So we need council to go beyond the 1 million they had
Yeah.
authorized.
So that's already happened?
They've already
Yeah.
authorized it.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, because they asked for all PIP and,
Well, I know what they asked
Yeah, yeah.
for, but I don't know if they heard the cost.
no, they approved the.
No,
funds.
yeah, part of that exercise from that council meeting that we had to put together was basically a detailed breakdown of those changes, the exact cost of what it would be, and what the total increase would be with these items to be able to do it.
So do you actually need to go to council again for their approval? Because they only have one more meeting in July before they break for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, that was where, I'm not 100% sure. It was given to Robert, and I think the plan was for them to discuss them with council in one-on-ones. I'm not, I wouldn't be able to answer that, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure on if it has to go back to council. The goal was to do one-on-ones to get their feedback based off of just the comments that were provided, and, that this was the direction or whatever the feedback was.
Okay.
Scott, if we wanted, however, to start building these things, which is about a year after we thought, we'd have to get this out though this summer, wouldn't we, for bid?
If we can go, we can go through the Omnia contract. It's all that information and contract legal stuff was provided to Robert for that discussion to start with legal. And they were provided contracts that are with other cities that were turnkey playgrounds to be installed. And if that's the case, not having to go out to bid and doing the bidding process saves the town a lot of time and money. So it can be turned around, and right now they're seeing turnaround times. It's not the normal 16-week manufacturing for playgrounds right now. I was told it was about 5 to 6 weeks. So
I didn't mean actual bid, yeah, okay, just.
Yeah, so
signing up
this-
a contractor.
Yeah, so this potentially, if we figure out the details this summer and we get the green light, it can happen, come fall around the, September time to be realistic. It's still gotta go to council and all that stuff with the contract, and so it would be sometime August, let's say August, September.
And then, okay, was that everything in the playgrounds? Is there the bathrooms we have to look at too?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you guys have any comments on any of this stuff? Any other comments before we move on to the restroom?
I have a question. Is there a sandbox? I thought last I heard the city
Yeah.
approved a sandbox. Where is that on the?
Yeah, let me go to, so this is that overview of what you just saw, which is in the handout, and this is the sandbox. So right here, this color, disregard this color, it'll be this same PIP color on this side. The rendering that they provided didn't have it laid out the same way, but this is where the sand pit is, and you're gonna have the entrance in here. So this whole area is gated as for the younger kids, the 2 to 5 area. And when you enter in here, this is where the sand pit will be with some construction diggers that you sit on, and you have the arms that you can dig and swivel. And then you do have, you have the hopscotch. That was the other addition. You have a hopscotch here that's kind of embedded into the PIP. These are those musical elements that you have like a tongue that you hit them and they make noises. So this is the layout of the swings. You got the two belt swings, the gravity seat swing, and then that tandem swing.
Okay.
And yep. Are there any other questions?
I think we're ready to move on to the bathrooms.
Okay.
Did they figure out how to get those in to the park?
So from our last meeting, part of the discussion that was going on, we set up a meeting to have, first we were talking to Public Restroom Company on the install of it and the details of the park. We provided them the structural calculations of that bridge over the culvert, which it is a small bridge. The structural components of it it's not that strong. So we did do a site visit then, and we went out there just to assess the different areas and possibilities of how we could get it in. And really, there was a good route to get it installed, but the issue with prefab that really changes the game on having a prefabrication building restroom put in there is the crane. So it's not even necessarily the modular building. So what happens for these prefab buildings is that they build them off site. The foundation and everything is all intact and the building is split in half and they get delivered on 2 semis. They have the ability, what they did first was basically break it down where they can have the building into 3 units, which decreases the weight and everything would be fine to get over the bridge and culvert. But the actual crane, the smallest crane, was way too heavy to be able to get it over that bridge for the structural calc. So it really limits us from all those restroom companies that have prefab buildings to put in. So the two that we were working with really went out the window. And now, other than having Romtech, that turns out to be one of the only companies that do a design supply. So they basically design exactly what you want. They provide you the documents, the construction documents, all the details, the specifications, and everything on it with the supply of the material delivered to the site on hand. So that what would happen is basically it would go out, unless we were to do a structural engineer that was going to come and design the whole thing from the ground up, which would be, really expensive, is to have a design supply where they design the building, supply all of the material, and this project would go out to bid with a contractor that would build it per the exact construction set and specifications that Romtech has. And they would also, so originally the plan was to do the prefab with Public Restroom Company. And then basically, when that building went out to bid, we would go out to bid with all of our civil design, being the underground utilities, the prepping of the pad, all the concrete work around the building would go out to bid with the restroom provided by others. And Public Restroom Company would come in and basically everything would be done construction-wise for that building to just be popped in place and the utilities to be connected. Now it has, the only option is to do a build on site, which is basically this Romtech option.
Okay, how much is it?
For the actual design and supply is it's like 275, 280. And that's everything for all the materials of the building, everything delivered there, and the construction documents that they would, on the building itself.
275 to 280,000.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we would go out to bid for a contractor with the specifications that they would basically build the building, prep the pad, running of the utilities, and doing the sidewalk around the building.
Okay, so it looks like total cost is somewhere in the 1.5 to 1.6 million for a restroom and playground together.
So the budget on this is 800,000. So once we go out,
The budget on the bathroom itself is 800,000?
yeah,
But you said it was 280.
yeah, 280.
280, just to draw the
Oh, for
design.
supply and design.
Draw the
For
design.
for the, basically all the materials of the entire building delivered to the site with the design. You still, regardless, we needed a contractor to come in and prep the pad, the foundation, the sidewalk around the building and all the utilities and the sump pump. So once we go out to bid, that difference in pricing will put us around that 800,000.
Okay. So all in about a little over 2 million.
Yep.
Yes. And the bathroom, yes.
So this is the restroom. It does have a 6-foot overhang. So it has a roof overhang system, gable roof that will, you got the men's, the women's, the family, you got the mechanical room in the back. In the front here, you do have the water fountain with the bottle filler station. So this direction here would face the playground, kind of like the existing one. And then there'd be the walkway with the sidewalk all the way around, a walkway all the way around the building.
Is it this new design, is it that different from the one we had agreed to on, I don't know, 2-3 months ago?
No, they both had all the components that we've, all of our meetings that we've had in developing this and all the parameters that, that were wanted for the restroom. This has the exact same components, the same layout. Basically everything from that PRC one, the public restroom company. It's got the 2 sinks, the hand dryer, the baby changing stations, 3 toilets for the women's, and then it's got the urinal with the 2 toilets in the men.
And then slightly lower toilet for the kids, and then also a step stool that they can.
Yeah, so all the details of the finishes, the main, like the colors and all of that stuff will come part of that process that, if we were to move forward, we would go through that process directly with ROMTech. The actual options that we went through in our subcommittee meetings, this cedar lap siding that you saw is basically that wood finish. It can be any color. It doesn't need to be the natural color. It can be like the brown, the off browns, the tan. The wainscot, this part is probably not going to be included. That's that bottom portion of the design, of the layout here. I don't think that'll be included, but those are details that we can, work out as we move forward. The state.
Does it need to come back to the subcommittee again, or do you have everything you need to move forward?
So part of this right now, we can discuss these and any options or any feedback that you guys have is where we're at right now on the restroom itself and these finishes.
So I want to ask the committee, do you guys want to go through it now, or do you want to go through it? Okay. Yeah, okay.
I want to make sure I understand this. What was our previous, if it was off-site built and brought in with a crane, what was our cost to build this thing?
It was cheaper.
How much money was it?
It was the 800.
So for the prefab, it was 560,000.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
$500,000.
Well,
Yeah, and but that, you got to remember that prefab was the 560,000 portion for the basically everything that ROMTech has, with the addition of them coming and dropping it inside and building the whole building. Now, we still would have to go out to bid for the running of the utilities, the prepping of the pad for the foundation to sit on, and all of the material compaction testing of that pad to be within, to withstand that foundation, the concrete sidewalk around it, as well as the sump pump that's going to go in the back that feeds from the baseball field. So there's still that 540 was going to include an additional, around 200,000 in work to put you at that budget of the 800,000.
Oh, okay, one simple question. Is there code requirement to have a family bathroom, or is that just an addition?
It is an addition that from multiple meetings that we had, that was the feedback from the subcommittee that.
But it's not code. It's not required. There's no law that says we have to have a family bathroom.
No, we do not.
I think it's a must just because this is going to be used by families all the time. And
$800,000 for a bathroom. Okay.
But is that what they can deliver? I missed the numbers, Scott. Is that all in at $800,000, including all the work?
Yes.
We can still do it for that.
Yep. It's still within the budget. Now, the difference on this one is going out to bid for contractors on building, actually building the, having to build the restroom.
Right. And we're building essentially a building here from ground up.
Yep.
With all kinds of choices for colors,
What's-
finishes, et cetera.
Since I don't want to do the calc right now, give me the square foot. How many square feet are we talking about? What's his building size? Square feet?
24 by 24 is the original one. This one is 21 by 33.
Okay.
21.4 by 33.4.
Did you go into the wrong business? Should have been a contractor.
Sorry, what?
You
600.
should have been a contractor instead of a vet, right?
No, I built houses. I mean, I'm almost falling over.
This is about 600 and what, 70, 80 square feet.
Yeah. And they're,
Okay, so I guess, we need
you,
to go
you can look
through
up
the-
and find restrooms that, yeah, you guys want to go through this and then there's a couple in here that maybe you guys have opinions on,
Sure,
maybe
let's-
not,
let's-
but
Yeah, let's get done with it and then we could kick off for
Yeah.
the summer and then.
so these are basically options for the exterior and interior and electrical and the finishing of the toilets and sinks and those types of things. So we went through this with the subcommittee and, we went with cedar lap siding, the standing seam metal roof, which is basically that front, the metal roof on the top where you wouldn't have any of the fasteners being shown. The timber truss roof extension, so that's that front area you saw with the trusses that overhangs. We didn't go with the skylight. The doors and frames, we went with the standard 18 gauge honeycomb store deal. The 16 gauge is thicker. You don't need hurricane rated doors. Door finishes, we're going with powder coated. Pull handle with deadbolt locks, magnetic locks with programmable timer, so that that has the automatic locks. The utility door in the back, just a standard 3-door, 3-foot width by 7-foot height.
The magnetic locks is so that it'll automatically lock at dusk and open at dawn or something like that?
Yeah, and I believe there's a safety feature on there with somebody, sensor with somebody being in there on the inside portion.
Okay.
No privacy screen options. The interior finish of the walls. So this is that FRP siding. We weren't going to go with, we didn't want the block look on the inside. We didn't want to go with a higher standard tile for restroom. Playground restrooms normally don't have that. Definitely not drywall. So we went with the FRP, which is kind of like a plastic. It's like a reinforced plastic that is just stronger and more versatile for, any spills or anything that gets on the walls. It can be sprayed off.
All the way to the ceiling, Scott?
Yep. The epoxy floor coating, which is pretty standard. It's just a resin with a hardener in it. So it's versatile as well. You can go in there with a hose and spray it all out if you needed to. HDP solid plastic partitions. It's just, just like most playground restrooms that have the plastic partitions. And then we had 2-roll dispensers, stainless steel trash cans, and soap dispensers inside the inside restroom.
But there are no paper towels, right?
No paper towels, just for maintenance reasons and just having hand dryers on there.
All one of those dryers that doesn't get your hands really dry, right?
It's actually the good one. It's down in here.
That's why it costs $800,000.
Yeah, it's one of those really loud ones that dry your hands pretty well. So then we did go with China over stainless steel. So I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on that.
plumbing, China versus stainless? I don't know.
How chippable is the china?
How chippable is the China?
I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I don't think there'll be any issues in Atherton, but the China is obviously not the same as stainless steel and the versatile of, you know, having stainless steel. It's just a matter of the aesthetics. I don't think it's as strong as stainless steel. It's like your, you know, higher end toilets in your house.
What's the difference in price, Scott?
I don't have that information broken down. I can find out though.
Okay.
But we have to
Anyway, we
kind of
did
make a
go through
decision
this,
now.
So
yeah.
thanks.
It really preference wise and the looks of it, what are your thoughts on for a China like white toilet versus a stainless steel?
You're talking about the basins?
Oh, the toilet. Oh, yeah, China. It's a little weird to a metal toilet and cold. Yeah.
So it's going to be your sinks. And you know, the other thing when I was going through, and this is what we came up with with the subcommittee, but we do have, you know, stainless steel towel roll dispenser, stainless steel trash cans, soap dispensers,
It's okay.
which doesn't mean it has to be stainless steel.
Yeah, we can stick with China. I'm fine with China. Let's keep on moving.
And then the toilet mounting is just, we decided wall mount versus floor mount just for maintenance issues as well. The wall mount would go into the mechanical room for any fixes or anything that may need to be done as versus it, you know, something happening in the foundation of the floor. Flush valve options, we went with your, you know, exposed sensor valves versus concealed. Concealed is like an extra box on the wall versus the exposed is on the unit itself. The faucet, hardwired motion sensor. So you put your hands under it, water will come out. Utility sink in the mechanical room. So 24 by 24 mop sink that has a faucet on it at the floor level, just for maintenance periods, you know, cleaning buckets, pouring stuff in it.
I think you can go faster through this, Scott.
Okay. No water heater, drinking fountain, stainless steel bottle filler.
Yeah, as a subcommittee, we definitely did this. I forget
Yeah.
if we did it through the full committee or not.
No, I don't think we have, but
Okay.
so wall mount, LED, vandal resistance, photo cell for the lights to turn off and on with the dark and the light, the 48-inch LED lights on the inside. Motion sensors for the lights. When you walk in, 100 amp is all we need. We don't need a 200. Hand dryer is you can look it up, but it's the Accelerator wall mount hand dryer. You may have seen them in other restrooms. A mechanical exhaust.
Oh, no, those are, sorry. I was thinking we had dispensers, but those were the toilet paper dispensers, not the,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Mechanical exhaust room, just rather than natural ventilation, no heating options, no wall insulation, and then it's open year round. We did have this off-grid solar system. Does the subcommittee, do you remember why we had that in there? Or was it just
Are we getting a grant for that or?
yeah, that's what I don't,
I don't, yeah, you can, I think the park might do its own other solar, is it? Maybe it's possible, but I don't know if we would use it for the bathroom though.
yeah, I wasn't sure why it was on there, and why we put it, but I didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah.
If you took it off, it would save some money, right? It obviously, without the solar system, it's going to be less expensive.
Scott?
Yeah,
did you
what
hear
was that? I couldn't hear you.
It's going to be less expensive without the solar system?
Yeah, I would email them to confirm, you know, taking this off.
Okay.
Take it off.
Yeah,
Okay, is that it?
that is it. Yep.
Okay, approved. Unless there's other.
Right.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Scott, and hopefully in September, we'll have heard that construction will be starting soon, because that's when we'll next meet.
Yep.
Anything else you want to share with us?
Nope, I don't think so. I appreciate everybody's time and
Well,
hard
thank you
work
for
in this long process.
Yeah, thank you for sticking to the pickleball discussion.
Yeah. Yep, it was interesting.
Okay,
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
thanks.
Thank you.
I will save the townwide survey and yearly goals for September. We have a fiscal calendar, which is basically same as the last. Everyone okay with that being our, okay, approved?
That's approved, okay.
Okay. I say we go through the last Brightview and 6 items now and then call it a day. And then, so
Skipping
Brightview-
over the survey.
Yeah, survey we'll just say for September, and the yearly goals as well for September. Yeah.
Brightview's a quality assessment is there in your folder if you have any.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yes. The art room is magnificent. Thank you.
That's not related to the Brightview, but that's okay.
We can pretend.
Okay. It's coming up, though. It does look from the pictures very well done, yes. Okay, we'll move on to the foundation report.
Signage, sorry.
Oh,
Signage is not part of Brightview, right? Okay, I didn't think so. I don't-
Brightview is just landscaping.
Yeah.
It's landscaping. Frank, did you have anything for the Park Foundation report?
I hope all of you have been enjoying the trickling of the water in the fountain.
Yes, I
And,
saw that.
Splash.
we're very pleased with, Will, you had a question or something that you had about, no?
Talk
Okay.
after, yeah.
But I think we were all very, I mean, I couldn't believe that we got it done the way we did. And may it live for another 100 years.
I want to say too, Frank, whenever I've been over there now, there are people sitting in those benches right around that fountain. Yeah.
Sorry, I had my shotgun out just because I saw a couple kids playing in there, but they backed off when they saw my weapon. so it's
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Anything else the foundation wants to share?
The question for debate is, do we need a fence around that or not?
I looked at the fencing that we had in the previous month, and I thought it would be in here again. I'm physically, or whatever, technology incapable of telling you which one I thought was good. It was on page 15. But if we could, it's the one with a little kind of semi-hoop top. And that,
Tall.
well, that's the thing. I think we looked at about 18 inches tall, maybe something like that. So it would be enough to keep the little darlings out of there, but it wouldn't detract. So I think if we could look at that again in September and think about possibly doing that, so.
If it's ready, we'll just put it on the agenda. Okay, thank you. Okay, 6B and 6C.
Okay, inside your folder is the report for the parks. You can go through the rental facilities, and rental activity for the month. As far as services, we did some repairs at the play school. We did the painting of the art room. We did some tree stump removal on Watkins Bridge area, some sprinkler repair. We did some more adjustments to the fountain, added another filter, did a little bit more work there. We had a couple events, and we did some power washing, the baseball stands and the carriage house. Just normal stuff. The baseball stadium fencing came down last Friday. So they're finished for the season there for Menlo Atherton. We did have one big mishap last week, if you guys noticed, piece of the eucalyptus tree broke off while my workers were there at five something in the morning, smashed part of the courtyard building. We're going to be getting that repaired. Luckily, nobody was hurt.
Was it the same tree that had
Different
broken?
tree.
Different tree,
Yeah,
okay.
so we had West Coast Arbors come out and do some more pruning of the trees over there to kind of alleviate that, but it was scary. Luckily, I wasn't here, so I went over there, assessed the damage and everything, but nobody was hurt.
What kind of a tree was it?
Eucalyptus.
They do that
That
a
same
lot.
one, same style as last year that, luckily, that only broke down like a couple trailers. This one actually hit the building. So.
For
Which building?
Our courtyard building, yeah, the big maintenance building.
Okay.
For safety reasons, does our arborist recommend we remove the trees near the courtyard, or?
She hasn't at this point. She did want to get more of it cut back, which we did. So
Okay.
that's been done, the pruning. Obviously, if she changes
Yeah,
something
that's
there, we'll,
2 times in less than a year,
it's a
that's.
very scary thing, so. Yeah. And that's pretty much all I have for the reports. If
I
you
have
have
a-
any questions, let me know.
I have a question because I don't know where it goes.
Sure.
sounds minor in the grand scheme of things, but the Jennings Pavilion is now where the yoga takes place on Thursdays at
Yes.
11:30. The floor is really gross. Is there any way to schedule floor cleaning, and is that even, I don't even know where that goes in here.
Yeah, that's
but
something I can set up with either Tony's clean team or the MCE crew.
They
Once
did
we
it the
get-
morning of,
Yeah,
that
if
would
we
be,
get some more information from Nick and everybody at the library, I know like everything was switched, we'll get people in there to clean it.
And the wood edging that's along the turnabout is doing its job?
It's doing
at
its
least?
job. We'll see how it goes when we have National Night Out, when everybody shows up and wants to park crazy places, but I
Yeah.
think it's been working.
It worked out when I was there on the 14th, when they had, I guess, the playoffs for
Yeah.
baseball all day, and then pickleball, of course, and nobody was
Seems
parking
to
on
be
the mulch anymore.
Deterring people.
That's
I
Well
haven't
done.
seen
Yeah.
anybody park.
Good
over
job.
there, so.
good solution.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Will. 6D, any member comments? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, so we'll meet again in September because we're going to be dark in August. Okay, thanks, everyone.